Oh my god, I'm supposed to have a second beer. I'm sorry.
A
I'll
second
be right back.
beer? You're only
on
on your second
I'm
beer?
on my third. Actually,
I'm on my second pint. Hello and welcome to the Game Brew Podcast, episode 002, where we will discuss PAX East and conventions in general, and what we've learned from games over the years. I'm your host, Ian Richard, and this week I am joined by Will Schell.
Hello.
Alex Ryder.
Hi.
Dan Rotz.
heyo.
Chris Wrights.
Hi.
But before we get into all that, it's time for a beer. Gentlemen, shall we?
I lost my bottle
Chris.
opener.
Oh, God. Chris, what are we drinking this week?
We are drinking Bell's Two Hearted Ale. It's an American IPA from Bell's. They're out of Michigan. What do you guys think?
I love it.
Don't rush me.
I love IPAs in general, or pale ales in general. My question is, what makes an American pale ale different from an India pale ale?
Well, this is an American
Freedom.
IPA.
Freedom.
So it's an
is
American
Freedom.
It's an American India pale ale. So I think it's just going to be using American hops instead of
I see.
different. Yeah.
I call this, as does my wife, Big Mouth Billy Bass Ale, because there's a big... It was not what I expected. I didn't look it up. I just went to get it, and I did not expect the fish bottle or the fish box, and that's what we got. But it's good so far.
It's an interesting. It's an interesting logo, but I really like it. It's got a lot of flavor, but it doesn't linger a lot. It's very clean and it's good.
It's
I
very
like it.
clean. It's not oppressive. I feel like people run away from IPAs because they think that they're like a hard, mean kind of beer. But this is another one, kind of like we were talking about the Heavy Seas Loose Cannon, right? It's an IPA that's friendly. It's an approachable IPA.
Mm-hmm.
It's an IPA that is gregarious. It just wants to meet you and be in your mouth.
Yeah, it's one of my
good
go-to IPAs if I'm at a bar. I'm just like, hey, Bell's Two Hearted. I'm gonna drink that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, so good stuff. Good stuff. We'll get more into the beer later. Right now, let's talk about what we've been playing this week. And Chris, I want to go to you first since you've got the most recent release here. You've been playing a lot of Zelda lately, no?
I have. It's so this is the most different Zelda that I've ever played in my life. It's like if Zelda and The Witcher 3 had a love child. You literally do like the intro area, and then you can do or go anywhere, literally anywhere. You can climb anything. You can just go, and you're obviously like you're going to be handicapped in some places, and they kind of try to guide you to go to certain places at the beginning. But overall, that you can just go, and it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. There hasn't really been a true open world Zelda game ever. There are always gates on Zelda. Maybe since the original, actually. Now that I think about it, you could go anywhere in the original, but you couldn't do the dungeons, right? You couldn't get into certain parts of the dungeons.
Well, and they kind of tested this idea out with A Link Between Worlds, because they made it so you could buy whatever of like weapon or tool that you wanted from this one guy, and all you needed was to have the rupees to do it. But so you could kind of do it that way in that game. So I think that was kind of the test run for that. But yeah, it's a pretty, on this level, it's never been done, I don't think.
And you're, just
Zelda.
to clarify, you're playing on Wii U, correct? You're not
That
playing
is
on
correct. That is correct.
Have you found the crafting system, particularly with weapons, as frustrating as what I've read seems to make that out to be, or do you not mind it so much?
I haven't been doing a lot of crafting with weapons. It's been more about crafting food. And I wish that there was a way to bulk make food. At least if there is, I haven't found it. But every time I've tried to make food, it's like you make one thing, and like you have to be holding the things in your hand, and then you throw that into the fire, and then you make something. But it's kind of...
Oh, you can't queue up like 20 at a time and then go make your own sandwich
No.
and then come back. Oh,
Unfortunately, no.
that's
It does make a cute little song, though, when you do it.
All right, cool. Alex, what have you been up to lately?
So I am in The Witcher 3.
Yay!
I'm about...
And how's that?
It's fantastic. I'm about 7 hours in right now. I just...
So you just started.
So I just started. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Are you?
it's cool. I'm far enough in to understand the concepts of how the decisions I make affect everything that comes later. And just from people that I've talked to about the game, I've already done some untraditional things where I think I've written out big parts of the story that people that have read the books and have played the previous Witchers would probably be mad at me for. But
there are books for this?
there are.
Yeah, the Witcher series
Yeah.
is based on novels.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, I
They've been
had
books
no
for
idea.
years. Yeah, they've been books. They've been books since the 90s.
Are they called Witcher?
Oh yeah. They're fantastic.
No
books, by the
way. Amazon, here we come.
Start with The Last Wish.
We are not sponsored by Amazon.
I'll probably have a lot more of my gameplay in the future since I am only at the beginning. But
Do you use? I forget what they call the magic in that game, but it's like sigils or symbols or something.
So-
I forget.
and that
But do you
Signs.
find yourself using that a lot or not?
So my game style is pull out my sword and go to town and just.
And
I
thwack.
always forget that I have magic, and I think I just have to map them on my keyboard a little differently so that I actually use them.
Oh, so you've been playing it with mouse and keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
That is one of those games where I feel like you might have a better experience on a gamepad.
Really
Maybe. Yep. I would agree.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would also try that out.
Fine then, I will.
Good. I'm glad. It'd be great.
All right, Dan, you're up next. What have you been playing this week?
I am. So I actually have been not playing traditional games as of late, or I have been playing the most traditional game, one would say.
You've been playing analog.
I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons because I have to.
Where's the Mountain Dew?
I had to craft a new campaign for a bunch of people. I have like 9. If anyone plays Dungeons and Dragons who's listening, I had 9 people who wanted to play. That may
That's a
increase
party.
to 10. That's definitely a party.
Oh, wow.
That's almost
awesome.
that's a fellowship, really.
Yeah. And my axe. So I've been doing that for like a week and a half, trying to get everyone like ready. The amount of people who waited until the last minute to make their characters is too damn high. Because I spent a good 3 hours before we even started just going, okay, roll these things, put these numbers in. Why didn't you do this when I told you to? Strangle, strangle, strangle. But also, I've downloaded the remastered version of Final Fantasy IX, so I've been playing that because I never played 9. I played 7, and I played half of 8, and then 10, but I never played 9. My roommate in college played 9 like all the way through, and I was like, that looks interesting, but I never really played it. So
Yeah,
my
9
turn.
was really a big tonal shift away from. People got really whiny about the super emo sort of self-possessed characters of the previous Final Fantasies, especially 7 and 8. Squall was so whiny, and
was
they
the
decided to
whiniest.
do something a little bit more fun for 9, which I think was smart. I loved 9. I had a great
yeah.
time with 9. It was
really
very
cartoony.
much. Yeah,
I never
cartoony.
finished 9. I need to do the same thing Dan's doing. I liked it. I just never finished it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
the
and
only
then-
Final Fantasy I've not finished.
I will say that the music in 9 was also really spectacular. I think 7,
Oh,
8,
yeah.
and 9 probably had the best music of the whole series for me anyway.
I've never played it because I'm a bad person.
Well, that's generally you're a bad person. So
Well,
Dump out
yeah.
your beer right now.
I already did that earlier tonight.
So I have been playing. I've been playing a lot of Ghost Recon Wildlands, because my buddy who actually works in like drug interdiction really wanted to play this game, which is kind of funny because that's what it's about. So, so I picked it up. It's cool in the multiplayer. It definitely is one of those open worlds that's kind of a mile wide and an inch deep. But it's fun to play with friends. It's not really worth playing by yourself because it gets really repetitive and boring. But if you've got a buddy to run around there with or two, it's a good time. And
Did you ever play Mercenaries 2 on Xbox or any of the Far Cry games co-op?
Yeah, I played a fair amount of Far Cry 4 co-op.
Was it kind of like that?
It's kind of similar to that. It's a little bit better, I would say, than the Far Cry 4 co-op. The Far Cry 4, you couldn't play main missions in multiplayer. And
right, you could only do like the opening up things.
Right, which was super disappointing. And you couldn't even do... I feel like some of your side mission progress didn't transfer, which is so dumb.
Yeah, well, I think it was only
silly.
in the game that you were in.
Right,
it wasn't
right.
Like,
So you couldn't go and collect weapons for you.
right, yeah.
You had
Sorry, everyone.
Is the cat destroying things?
So what was that about collecting weapons?
and weapon. You can't collect weapons for your. I'm just gonna tap out of this podcast right now. Your progress doesn't save all the way in multiplayer. So in Ghost Recon though it does. So when you collect a weapon in your game, even if you're technically in somebody else's game, you keep it. If you complete a main mission in somebody else's game, you also complete that main mission in your game. So that's
cool.
Nice. It's good.
Especially with a game that big.
Yeah, especially with the game and it is huge. And that's probably one of the most incredible things is that map is gigantic and it's beautiful when you're flying over it in a helicopter or in a plane or something. Just kind of repetitive, but it's cool. It's fun.
How's the AI? I've heard not good things.
For me, it is better than The Division. The Division was cool because you sort of had a loot hunt, right? Mm-hmm. And this doesn't have as much loot, but it does have more interesting moment-to-moment gameplay. The Division got really old really quick because it was kind of like, shoot this bullet sponge, shoot this other bullet sponge that's a slightly different color, and there was no new content at all. At least in this, you can do stealth, and you can steal a helicopter and fly around.
Sure.
And Will, to answer your question, the AI is garbage. It's absolutely horrible. Like cars, if you stop a car on a road, they just pile up behind it. No one ever drives around. In Bolivia, everyone is a very polite driver, apparently. They're very nice. There's no honking. There's no nothing. Your AI...
Does that go both ways, teammate and enemy AI?
The AI co-op teammates don't ever screw you up. Like, they'll essentially never get noticed.
Well,
but they also
that's
don't do They also don't do anything for you. You're pretty much on your own unless you use like a specific ability. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Okay.
This sounds like a game I'm going to buy when it's like $15 or $20 and have a blast with it. When everyone on this podcast starts playing it with me.
Exactly.
Yeah, this sounds like a Steam sale game.
And Moneybags up there, Will Shell can purchase it.
Oh.
All right. And speaking of Mr. Moneybags himself, Will Shell, what have you been playing this week?
I have been playing Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, and I'm about to finish Mass Effect 3 as well. I have
a question. I just have a
very
question.
Productive week, and I use the term productive quite loosely.
How many hours have you been able to play this week?
Copious amounts of hours.
Lord, man.
Did you finish 1 and 2?
I finished 1 and 2.
Oh my god!
That's super
14 hours and 37 minutes into Mass Effect 3. I already have enough people, and I have enough. If you guys have played Mass Effect 3, you have to garner forces up to a certain level to take on the bad guy threat. To be spoiler free here, even though the game's like 3 years old now. But
that's actually what they call the aliens
to do
was
that.
The bad guy threat.
Okay,
yeah, I could go finish the game if I wanted to. I've been productive.
How have you guys heard of howlongtobeat.com?
Yeah.
No.
It's it estimates how long it takes to beat games. So the first Mass Effect, it says 17 hours for main story, completionist for 43. So you probably around 17 hours, which is probably...
I think I took 21.
Okay, so that's like a good 3 days there. Mass Effect 2, 24 and a half hours for main story. Completion is 50
sounds
hours.
About right, yeah.
So 24 hours, that's another 3 days.
And Mass Effect 3 is about the same, 20 hours?
24.
Yeah. 24, yeah.
So you've spent 9 days playing Mass Effect?
I have not spent 9 days. I've spent 7 or 8 days doing
You've
this.
worked like every day, right?
I have.
Did you work?
Did you
really go to work?
Did you
my
play
wife
at work?
works weekends, so this is what I do Saturday and Sunday. I just
I'm impressed.
You can move to Tennessee so I can play video games.
7 days of gaming
And that's what I
into
do.
Saturday and Sunday.
No, not just 2 days. I mean, I play during the week as well. I'll
or-
sit up late and play games, and then I'll just go on 5 hours of sleep the next day and just
Right.
I gotta move to Tennessee and play video games.
Will, I got a question.
I had to get ready for Andromeda. It dropped
No, you're right.
today, and I can't spend $60 on it because for the same reason I couldn't buy Nier Automata. I was about to click the button. I was like, what am I doing? This is what Steam sales are for. And I couldn't do it.
Good for you.
Good. Yeah. Way to have
Except
some
Mass Effect's not going to be on a Steam sale because it's on Origin.
Will, I have a
I've
question.
heard
How does Mass Effect 1... I remember playing Mass Effect 1 and thinking like, oh my god, this is a great game. This is so
I loved
amazing.
Mass Effect 1.
I loved Mass Effect 1 too.
great.
How does it hold up, what is it, like 5-6 years later?
Oh, it's more than that.
It's like 10 years, dude.
Really, really well. What's so special about it, and I didn't realize it at the time, perhaps it's a time thing and I'm playing it later as I'm older and more insightful, but it holds up so well. Not just as an individual title, all three of them, especially two. Two's fantastic. But the overarching narrative between all three games is so well interconnected and so well scripted and so logically and intelligently planned out that all three of them stand as this one big cohesive unit really, really, really well. And it's been so much fun to go back and play. I've had a blast with it, and I've picked up on so much that I had forgotten or didn't even notice the first time. And it's just been great. I would highly recommend it. It's great.
Yeah, I need to go back and replay it. I love that game. That series is so good.
It gets a little chaotic, but if you pay attention, if you pay attention, it's really not that bad. It's just a lot of story at once.
I liked 3.
I think I liked 1 the best just because I'm kind of a loot whore. I love games that just throw loot at you and you just get to play and figure out what's the best loot that you can use. So 1 was great like that, and then they kind of took that away for 2, and I was kind of disappointed about that.
I think 2 was my favorite because I think there was a little bit more there was more weight on your choices that you made as a character in that one. As opposed to like good ending, bad ending. It was kind of like, what people survive and what people don't survive and all that kind of stuff. 2
was big for that for me. 2 had a lot of
it made you make
character
choices.
connections and the choices you make, and you have to suffer some consequences no matter what you do. But
I would be curious what our audience thinks is the best Mass Effect. So if you end up listening to this and you have a favorite Mass Effect in the series outside of Andromeda 1, 2, or 3, chime in and let us know somewhere. I'd like to move on at this point to a discussion about PAX East. Our correspondent Chris Reitz took some time out of his schedule to go and drop into PAX East and check out what was going on there. And yeah, man, how was it?
It was fucking great. I was exhausted just because of my travel situation. There was some snow in Boston, so that made it difficult getting there. But just the first time, going into the expo hall, I was just so blown away by just the expanse of nerddom that was laid out in front of me.
This wasn't your first time at a convention, right? You've been to a couple others.
No, I've been to a couple other conventions, but this was the first time for PAX East, yeah.
Okay, so what makes PAX East special?
So the reason it's special is because it's devoted just to the fans. So it's more about the fans than it is about anything else. It's catering to the fans, and it's specialized towards gaming, and that's it. So there's other things like I know GDC is more about getting connections, and E3 is more about big reveals and the next big upcoming thing. And you see some of that at PAX, but it's not about that. It's about game companies connecting with their audience.
I looked up the schedule of events, and I was really surprised by how many board gaming events there were. It's not all electronic gaming. There's a ton of tabletop stuff.
And actually, there's been so much interest in that they're doing a PAX specifically for, they call it their analog gaming.
Analog gaming?
Yeah.
I want to go to that one.
Right. No, it's in Philadelphia.
What?
Yep. It's in Philadelphia in November.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, I really want to go to that too, but it's all going to be tabletop, which is great.
There is something about tabletop gaming.
It's the meat space.
It's the meat space, but video games so far have only managed to go so far in terms of creating community. There are certain things, we talked last week about social gaming, right? But this is something that tabletop gaming does really well. And Dan, I know you can speak to this because you've got your D&D thing going on, but when I was a kid, my cousins and I would play the White Wolf tabletop RPGs. So Vampire the Masquerade, I think it was
so good.
We used to play Mage, we would play Werewolf, like all that stuff. We would get like way deep into at Christmas and in the summers. And I miss having that gameplay experience where you're in the room with other people rolling dice and
I love rolling dice.
Trying to avoid
So much
death
fun.
and things. So
I mean, I was a big Warhammer player. And just I would just hang out there on the weekends at different Warhammer stores and just like play people that I never knew, and just you would make connections with people. I had I was in high school and I had friends that I had met just at the Warhammer store from hanging out and playing against them. It was great.
I like that it's the Warhammer store and not
Sorry, Games
the
Workshop,
local
my bad.
Yeah,
Games
it's
Workshop.
the Warhammer store though, guys.
Games Workshop or whatever craft place you go to get that. I mean, I love this weekend was the first adventure for a group of 9 people that I was working on, like I said earlier, and it's funny how it went from initially like this bunch of people who were kind of like, I don't really know what to do, because they were all brand new. Not one, 2 of them had played before, but everyone else had not played, and how it just immediately became like it went from like oh, this is so awkward to a like, oh, no, you got to do this. No, we got to do this. No, you got to do that. Or like, hey, I've got to be this person. Ooh, magic, that kind of stuff. It's so cool. I love it.
So, Chris, back to the directly
Back
to
to
PAX
PAX.
East here. Back to PAX. Back to PAX. Did you go to the event on your own?
No, I actually went with my girlfriend.
Okay. So, as someone who's never been to PAX, I've been to plenty of conventions for work-related purposes, but unfortunately, this would not qualify as a work-related purpose for me.
I wish it was.
How welcoming is it to just your average Joe going to enjoy the experience? Because I have this sneaky suspicion that a huge proportion of it is all geared towards the media and just getting stuff out and getting those YouTubers and bloggers who have a far reach. How welcoming is it, and what's the depth of experience that just a random person showing up can enjoy?
So I would say that PAX East is just from my experiences is more welcoming to a newcomer or just like a regular gamer than anything I've ever seen, because they're having raffles all the time. It's for the average gamer. I mean, obviously they have like the Twitch booth going off, like having a bunch of different hosts doing that, and like a bunch of Discord things going on and tournaments and stuff. But it's all for the average gamer for the most part. I mean, obviously they're trying to, like, I know EVGA was running with Twitch the entire time, so they were trying to advertise with that, which is expected from a big company. But it's for the gamers. I mean, there's raffles and just special edition gaming merch. I almost bought a Dom from Gears of War pop figure that was signed by the voice of Dom that you could get there.
Cool. I didn't
Like,
know they had pop figures.
Was it like OG Dom, or was it like old, like messed up Dom?
I think it was like probably Gears 2 Dom.
Okay, yeah.
Slightly. So like
slightly less
rough
messed
looking,
up
but
Dom.
not like not
Oh my
dead.
God, Gears 3 Dom is
Yeah,
he's so sick.
I know, right? but just like there's things like that, and there's some merch that I've just never seen anywhere in my life other than at PAX East, and that's for the gamers.
Yeah. I think is that unique to PAX? Because E3 seems like you said to be a really big press event, and the GDC conference is very much like a builders conference.
Well, not really a builders, but a just like a meetup conference. I mean, I know Alex can talk more about that, but PAX is, I think, kind of unique in the fact that it's a lot of gamer face stuff, so a lot of everyman stuff, average person stuff.
Yeah, I was looking at their website. I love that they have the PC free play thing going on. Where
I actually did some of that.
A giant bank of badass gaming computers set up, and you can just go sit down and pull up whatever you want and go for it.
Yeah, and they actually had 2 areas, and I spent some time. There was two areas. There's one that were set up with Surfaces, like Microsoft Surfaces, and another set up with Lenovo gaming computers. The Lenovo line was long as hell. Like, I didn't really want to deal with that. But the Surface line, I could just walk up because I was trying to play some Gwent.
Nice.
Because they were having some of the Gwent beta there. So that was fun. I really enjoyed that. And
what else did you see in terms of games? Aside from the Gwent beta, which you can talk about if you want to, but I know there were some pretty cool things there.
There was a couple different sections. There was the indie mega booth, which was just all indie games, and then there was like a lot of the AAA kind of companies. So one of the big things there was Lawbreakers, it's a new game coming out. It's kind of like Overwatch, but more vertically based. So it's kind of like Overwatch and Titanfall, and it's very arena based but very vertical.
I'm
so
glad
it's
you
more
said that.
3D
That is
combat.
exactly what I thought when you mentioned this game to us. I looked it up. I was like, "This is Overwatch and the acrobatics of Titanfall." It looks a lot of fun, and it's got kind of a mature tone. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah, and it's got, I think, a little bit of the speed of Halo involved in there too.
Oh, okay, sweet.
At least the older Halos, not the newer one.
Is it anything like the movement that's in Tribes? You ever play any of the Tribes games?
I didn't really play much of the Tribes.
Yeah, it looks a lot like some of the Tribes movements. Tribes, I feel like was more.
Tribes is like if everybody had flight and rocket skates.
Yeah.
And then you try and shoot each other with slow-moving projectiles. It's chaos.
I think Lawbreakers just has the jetpacks. But it's all about arena three-dimensional combat.
And you can kick people in the face.
Which
Most important.
Will has been doing since
I'm
he
not
was a
joking.
wee tyke.
You can kick people in the face. It's in the trailer. And this is not an Ubisoft game, so we know that if it's in the trailer, it's probably part of the gameplay.
Wow.
Wow. That was
Just
not
saying.
a dig. That was not a dig.
Another game that I actually got some hands-on time with was called Elex, or Elex. It's a THQ Nordic game. Yeah. What?
Elex?
I thought you said Alex.
In World of Warcraft?
Alex.
No. There's an E in front of it. Calm down, Alex.
Elex.
Elix. Anyways, this is a game that's coming out by THQ Nordic. It's an RPG set in a post-apocalyptic world, which we've all kind of played before, but this has kind of... It's made by the same people that did Gothic. So it's going to have some more of that hardcore RPG feel, but it has some of the look of Horizon Zero Dawn, so kind of like swords and futuristic, like blue swords and blue guns and stuff like that. It's blue. That's what makes it futuristic.
I once was a man. I had a blue house and a blue wife. If I was green, I would die. So.
God damn.
I hope our audience is of age to get that.
Whatever audience we had is gone now.
Damn it.
But it looks pretty cool. It does need some more polishing, definitely, for sure. But there's some good bones on it, definitely, and it looks like it's going to be a harder game. And
What kind of RPG is it? Is it isometric? Is it like a BioWare Dragon Age kind of strategy RPG? Is it an action RPG?
it's kind of like Mass Effect. So it's a third-person action RPG.
Okay.
And
mostly
it kind of reminded me of the
combat?
third person of Skyrim a little bit.
Okay.
But it looks pretty cool. I recommend you check it out.
Yeah, the art style on their website looks really cool. Mm-hmm. I'd be interested to see some gameplay clips. I'll have to look into that.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, and I was only able to play just like the beginning area for a few minutes, but I enjoyed it, and I'm definitely interested to see where it goes. Another game that was really intriguing was called Elsinore. It's a narrative game based on Hamlet, and basically every day you play as Ophelia, and every day you kind of try to make a different outcome happen, and it kind of reminds me of the time loop of Majora's Mask.
When I read about this, I thought Bill Murray in Groundhog Day.
Yes.
I did not think... Yeah.
Well, you haven't played Majora's Mask, so you wouldn't think of that, would you?
No, I have not played... No.
Wow. Thank you for calling Will out. By the way, audience, our contributor Will Shell has never played a Zelda game.
Yeah, no.
And our contributor,
Okay.
Chris Wrights, really hasn't played a Final Fantasy game, so that's okay.
I played the shit out of A Link to
alright.
A Link to the Past.
But Yeah, so Elsinore, I mean, it looks really cool. It's got a neat mechanic. I love when games bring history or historical things into their stuff, so I'm looking forward to that as well.
Literature in this.
Yeah, well, it's historical literature.
It's old literature.
It's old literature. It's not necessarily
historical.
Accurate.
Yeah, but that's okay.
You know what I mean.
I kind of.
Yeah, just clicking around their website, I love that it's got sort of a storybook aesthetic to it, which is kind of neat. It's sort of like it looks like The Sims a little bit.
Yeah, like the isometric kind of.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so check that out. I mean, if you like narrative games and kind of, in a way, kind of a puzzle game, because you're going to be testing out different ways to do stuff, definitely check that one out too.
Right. What is this Metronomicon thing that's going on?
So Metronomicon was a game that I tried out as well. It's an RPG that you can do with your friends or by yourself, and it's a rhythm game. So like the better you do with the rhythm game, the more damage you do to the boss that you're fighting, kind of thing. So like it sounds really silly, but it's a lot of fun. It looks really cool.
It looks really silly. So
it does.
So it looks like it released actually in September 29th of 2016.
So actually, a lot of the games that were in the Indie Mega Booth have been already released in some form or another. But
right,
I guess they were just trying to push this game a little more. It's really cool.
Does it? Let's see. Just checking to see if it has online co-op or not. It doesn't look like it. Yeah, single player on Steam.
Maybe they were pushing the co-op version of it.
Yeah, maybe.
It could be what it is. But anyways, it's a very cool game. If you like dance games, if you like rhythm games, definitely check it out. If you like fun lights, it's good too.
I was gonna say there's lots of lights going off. I watched a little bit of it right now. I was just like, it's making me dance, and there's lights happening.
Yeah, and they have a lot of, I think, custom music in there, and
very very round buttocks pants. Armored round buttocks pants.
Well, obviously, what other types of pants would you wear?
I mean, in a dance game, probably the only choice would be round buttocks version. And you were saying it reminded you a little bit of Crypt of the Necrodancer?
Yes, a little bit. I mean, just that it's a rhythm game, and kind of it's a rhythm game in a different format than you're used to, than just like Audio Surf or DDR, just any of those like what was harmonic?
Parappa the Rapper.
Yes, Parappa the Rapper.
If Parappa the Rapper made a comeback, I'd go to his concerts.
Yeah.
Apparently nobody agrees with me.
Can I ask you like what you ended up spending on the whole experience?
Each day's pass was $50. You could buy single day passes instead of just 3-day passes. I stayed with a friend up there, so my lodging was free, but I've from what I was looking at, lodging was not cheap up there. And then plane tickets were, again, I got a good deal on this. They were $140 round trip for me. Flying it from Baltimore.
So, yeah, okay, so not too far.
So not too far, but $140 I thought was pretty good. So overall, and then I bought a lot of merch.
Merch.
I like how you're ashamed when you say I bought so much merch.
I bought like $50 worth of pins. I love pins.
Oh my god.
They're cool. They're Zelda pins. I would show you them if I didn't have to get up, but I should have brought them over here.
Chris, was there any cool swag?
There was some cool swag. Again, there was giveaways, but I've heard that the swag is not as good as it has been in the past years, but I did get there was a decent amount of game codes that I could get. I got some pens, some stickers, some pins, so I mean there is some, but it's not. I've heard that it's been better in the past from people that have been there before.
I feel like that's just a trend.
Hey, were you there that one time they gave away Maseratis? That was really cool.
No, I wasn't. I wish I was, Dan.
Damn. No one was there.
They downgraded to Eponas this year.
Oh, yes, the Epona.
I would take an Epona.
The
over
Maserati
Maserati.
Epona.
If all I needed to do was get out my ocarina and go, I would totally get that pour.
Is that actually the song for Epona? Because if it
That
is,
sure
extra
is.
nerd points to you.
Have you not played Ocarina of Time?
No, I played Ocarina. I just don't remember all the little tunes.
Well, get on that.
I'm sorry.
But yeah,
I
no,
did that.
as like I was fortunate to have some find some good deals, and I was able to stay with my friends. So for me, I was able to get it for to go for a really good price, which was really fortunate. But I think regardless, if I was going with a group of friends and was able to stay in a hotel room and get a decent deal in the hotel room and all that, I would still go. I would, regardless of whether I had a friend to stay up there with, I would go because it's just so much to see and so much and it makes me so hungry to play more video games.
Is it so much to see, so much to do that it's just totally worth it, or?
What do you mean?
I'm sorry, I totally ruined this.
Did you see a bunch of stuff?
Were you trying to make it funny
do
and
a
it
bunch of
failed?
stuff?
I was, and then I lost.
So much to do, so much to see.
That's
So
what it
what's
was. God damn it!
Wrong with taking the back street.
Thank you, Chris.
You never know if you don't go.
There you go.
You never shine if you don't
blow.
go.
Oh, there you go.
Anyways,
Hey now. Get your game up.
but yes, no, it was an excellent experience. I totally recommend it. I would say out of the couple cons that I've been to, and it could be just because it was the first time I've been, it might be my favorite at the moment, and also just the most recent one. So, but I'm definitely going again.
All right, well, that's PAX East. All right, let's go ahead and take a short break here. When we come back, we'll check in with our beer, and we'll talk about our Beyond the Screen topic, which is what games have taught us, what we've learned from games. So hang in there. We'll be right back for the second half of the Game Brew podcast. All right, welcome back to the second half of the Game Brew podcast, episode 002. Let's check in on that beer. This week we're drinking Bell's Two Hearted Ale. It's an American IPA. Gentlemen, what's it doing for you?
I'm digging it. It's got a
Lubricating my
smooth
soul.
beginning and ending taste, but the
just my
middle
soul.
is like a kick to the taste buds. I don't know how I feel about that part yet, but the beginning and ending are awesome.
Will's just saying he wants to get kicked in the face like
I'm
those guys.
IPAs are. I'm kind of a weenie beer drinker. IPAs are kind of. I like Baileys,
Too intense for me.
and strawberry things. I'm not too I'm not so
He only
man
drinks
enough
Mike's,
that I can't
Mike's
admit
hard
that.
lemonade.
So IPAs are kind of, they're
Okay,
hair
so
on
this
your
is
chest, as
interesting,
my
though,
grandfather would say.
But from the position of someone who maybe is not the hoppiest with hops, do you feel like it's off-putting? Is it too much hops, or do you feel like it's pretty accessible?
The first couple of drinks were. Part of it, I'm sure, is the alcohol kicking in, but the other part of it is just acclimating to what I'm drinking. It gets smoother as I drink it. I'm on my second one here, and it's not. It's not a big deal anymore. It's much more smooth through that middle part.
I was looking through it. I'm admiring the color of it. It's a very, very
It's
nice
interesting.
amber color.
Yeah, it's interesting to
Amber
compare it to
gold.
last week's, because last week's was a little higher alcohol content, but it's also a much smoother beer. It was clearer. You could see through it easier since it was an IPA, so it's obviously a little cloudier. But
It's
yeah,
I am not an IPA fan. I am very much a brown ale, English ale, smooth, creamy, malty.
Multi pass.
Multi, yeah.
But I would put this in the same category as a loose cannon, that it's a very accessible IPA.
Yeah.
It's,
I think for
it's
someone,
the hops. All right, so this is the difference. I think that the hops in this are more flavor and not burn my tongue off.
so much bitter.
Yeah.
I actually, what's interesting is that I I don't really like sour beers, so like a beer that has a really
Like sours.
yeah, sours.
Hey, let's do a sour beer next
Thank
time.
you
That would
for-
be great.
Not.
Thanks for bringing that up. So
sours.
Sours are
The
awful.
bitter for me is great.
Sours.
Like I love appreciating
Alex
a little bit
disagree.
of bitter. So I like the hops in this. I feel like it's a pretty accessible one. It's not quite as easy on the tongue as Loose Cannon is. Loose Cannon is like a straight up drink of like you could play beer pong with Loose Cannon if you wanted to.
If you're trying to get real hammered, yeah.
Yeah,
trying to get
real
drunk.
So it's not quite that accessible, but it's definitely a beer drinker's IPA for sure.
I agree. It's in the. It's not like this is not a session. Neither is Loose Cannon. Neither are session IPAs, just because of the gravity. But it's very accessible and it's very drinkable. And I do put it in the same categories as Loose Cannon.
It pairs well with my podcast
a good
experience.
And Bell's just has a bunch of
Indubitably.
good beers. Oberon is another one of my favorites from them. So definitely go
Oberon,
check
it's
Oberon.
so
Oberon's
good.
good.
This is my first Bell's beer, and I would try more. I mean, I'm not an IPA
Yeah.
person, but you know, there's some good things to find.
They've
Will,
got
was that easy for you to find?
Yes, it was quite easy. We have a sheets with a beer
Schmeats.
thing,
sheets. I had to go to like
beer cave.
I had to go to it was a deluxe like fancy ass shit store to get this beer.
You probably paid
I-
3 times the price
So-
that we paid for it.
So me being in
11,
Pennsylvania, I
26.
guess I'm the only one. I guess I'm the only one who has to go to an actual beer store to get
No,
beer.
we have to go. Well, Alex and I have to go to liquor stores.
You go
To
to
get
liquor
beer?
stores to get beer?
Yeah,
We have liquor stores that have liquor and beer. We don't have beer.
liquor, beer,
in-
and wine.
we
We
have.
don't
It's
have.
got to be.
We don't have beer and wine in supermarkets,
This is kind of like the
except for the Eastern Shore.
Well,
We got to
and
separate them in Pennsylvania. It's like here's your beer and then here's your liquor. You can
My
go
God.
to either one, but not together.
In Tennessee, we sell beer at church.
God, I need to move to Tennessee. You can play all the video games you want. You go to get beer at church. That sounds like excellent.
Man,
And
we should
Dan,
all move to Tennessee. Don't you? Yeah.
can't you guys like not buy beer
complicated.
in 6-packs? Like you have to buy everything in like 30 packs.
No, not anymore. There's a lot of places that have they kind of there's a lot of places now that are doing like you can do 6-packs. You can go to Wegmans and get a mix of 6. Shout out to
Wegmans. I
Wegmans.
love Wegmans.
Freaking love Wegmans.
Oh my god, they have the best cheese section.
Oh my god, they're the best everything section.
It's the best everything.
the
section.
They have the best.
cheese,
Oh, their donuts
the
are so
meat
good.
section.
Join us
God.
next week when we add cheese to the beer top.
Yeah, that's right. We'll call it the game curd.
I'm gonna do the podcast from my iPhone at Wegmans next week.
All right.
Can't come with you, right?
Moving on from our check-in. Thanks for that Wegmans commercial, though. You're welcome, Wegmans.
I'll take
gonna
my
move on to
feminine form of charcuterie.
the Beyond the Screen segment of our show, where we talk about topics that are related to gaming, but that go beyond them. And this week, we wanted to talk about things that games have taught us, things that we've learned from games. And this is an interesting topic for me because I feel like there are a couple really big things in my life that I first experienced with games and then didn't really understand that until later. So there are a couple of goofy things that we'll talk about. There's some deep stuff going on, and I want to go to Will first because it's something I noticed about them, or about Will, that is, that he's a very organized person. I always had my shit all over the place when we lived together, and Will was like, this goes in this box, and this goes in this box, and the Febreze goes everywhere.
You know, I learned attention to detail, just how
What
to
game?
organize my shit.
Please let
From
me
games.
tell me what games you're thinking of when you address this, because I want to know too.
I can think of a few.
I've learned attention to detail and organizing where I keep my material items and what do I need for the next 20 minutes of gameplay. Let me get this, and this. The rest of the shit goes in the box. It's not always the case on modern games. And so I wonder how much of that I can attribute to early experimentation in gaming inventory systems. I would say probably the most practical thing I've learned, other than just how to organize all my crap, and I'm not joking when I say this, is strafing corners.
Like
Like when you walk around a mall, you're like,
No, I don't turn sideways and just walk right around the corner, but I turn my head and I look before I get to the corner. If I'm turning right, I turn my head right before I hit the corner. so I don't run into somebody or knock some, I strafe around corners because of Half-Life.
God. This is what happens when you play too much.
I have Gordon
CS:GO.
Freeman to thank for that.
Do you hold L2 when you do that?
No, honestly, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I do. There's this one hallway, it's not really a hallway. It's just this tiny narrow thing between some couches and the wall at my work, and it's like a main area, but it's only wide enough for one person. So I kind of always try to look around the corner before I go around the corner, because sometimes I've surprised people, or they've surprised me when I haven't been paying attention. So I kind of totally get that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a practical
so much
skill
sense.
that I picked up on because of Half-Life. I was a kid when Half-Life first came out, and I would go around corners, and like a dumbass kid that I was, selfish in my own world, I'd go around the corner, and then I'd turn the direction of and you'd die. And I don't want to die, so I strafe around corners.
All right. Well, there you go.
Where are you walking? What corners are you walking around that you would die when you're in middle school?
You never know.
No, middle
Dude,
school,
he went
that's
to a
not for
rough
real.
middle school. Tennessee, man.
Those Tennessee
Tennessee's
corners.
messed up, man.
Tennessee corners, man.
I wanna go over to Alex now to see what he's learned from gaming. What has gaming taught you, Alex?
The games that I played in the late 90s, early 2000s, when I had a PlayStation and then a PS2, the music and the soundtrack to these games had a very big impact on the music that I ended up listening to. For example, one of the biggest chains of games that my brother and I played growing up were the Tony Hawk series. And the Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtracks were incredible. So here's just a few of the highlights. In Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, you had Anthrax and Chuck D, Bring the Noise, Papa Roach, Rage Against the Machine's Guerrilla Radio,
Roach.
Power Man 5000, When Worlds Collide.
I forgot about all these. Man, that's freaking tight.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, the Ramones Blitzkrieg Bop, Red Hot Chili Peppers Fight Like a Brave, excellent song. Motorhead Ace of Spades.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it.
House of Pain.
Motorhead rules.
I'ma Swing It. Exhibit Paparazzi.
So just a ton of stuff that you felt like stuck with you.
You discovered music from it.
Absolutely, yeah.
I kind of had.
What's funny? Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I kind of had that with with the first Tony Hawk game. I didn't really know it until later in life, but that was the first time I heard Primus, and I'm pretty big into Primus now, but that was the first time I heard Jerry was a race car driver. Yep.
Yeah.
He was a race car driver.
He drove so goddamn fast.
Never did win those checkered flags.
But never did come in last. There was Madden games. That was one of the first times I heard Pandora. So that got me into Pandora. And the big one though for me was Brutal Legend. Got me into so many different metal bands. Just because that was the main core concept. But
so many insinuations as to all the metal bands that just were around. It's so good.
Oh man,
that's on my backlog, and you just moved it up about 3 or 4
Dude,
spots.
Brutal Legend is fucking. If you like metal and you like Jack Black, go play it. Just go play it. If you like Tenacious D, go play Brutal Legend.
So
what's interesting is that I actually had the same experience with music and games, but in a totally different genre. I was talking to Alex about this earlier. So one of the things that influenced me getting into classical music, and I love classical music, it's essentially the only kind of music I listen to now, was the soundtracks from the Final Fantasy games. So especially the ones from, like I was talking about earlier, 7, 8, and 9, the Nobuo Uematsu soundtracks. They're just so One Winged Angel is so well written, and the I think it's the Lionheart theme from Final Fantasy VIII or something like that. Yeah, it's good. Just it's huge, sweeping orchestral score, and it's so well realized. that kind of music was sort of a door opener into a wider world of classical stuff. So that's interesting that was your experience, Alex, but with a completely different kind of music.
But I did have a very similar experience to the Metal Gear games as well. Like, those had really, really awesome scores in them that I was very much drawn to when I was learning tuba and starting to take shape as a classical musician as well. So yeah.
Very cool. All right, Dan, what did you learn in the School of Games?
Well, in the School of Games, I always think about like my problem-solving skills, because I think about I always think about like the Legend of Zelda games, because there was
Two burns this podcast.
he's taking off his.
We should have a burn count.
Yeah. It's like a boomerang where it hits you once, and then on the way back it hits you again.
But that's one that I always think about, like
that's a Zelda weapon.
Banjo-Kazooie. I don't know why that pops in my head, but I love those games. But it's basically like you have to think about things in different ways in order to figure it out. Like, you can't just say, "Oh, I got to go from here to there." You got to think, "Okay, how do I get from here to there, and what's the reasoning?" And then there's other games that you could play.
Portal.
That's an awesome
like
example.
Portal. That's
like a straight up problem-solving game.
Yeah, it's thinking with portals. Like, that's all it is. It's thinking, how do I get to A to B whenever the in-between can be like any sort of situation.
Do you feel like that's like a particular game has influenced how you problem solve, like in your job or in your life, or is it just games in general?
I really think it's just games in general, because I mean, I know there's lots of people out there who don't play video games or who haven't had that kind of, what's the word? Background? Who haven't had that kind of situation thrust upon them where they would need to like think in an abstract format. So it's harder for them to think about, how am I going to get out of this situation, or how am I going to solve this without, with not the normal means.
It's funny. I feel like that's sort of a very dungeon master problem. Like, I wanted them to do this, but they ended up like burning the forest down instead and like chasing everybody out of it. Like, how do I move the story forward?
Honestly, like, that's what I worry about most of the time as a dungeon master. That's what I worry about, is like, are they going to be able to figure out like this is how they get to the end? Or if they do figure it out, I'm super, like, anytime anyone ever does anything out of the ordinary to get to the ending point, I'm for it. Like, it's the best, because it's just like, oh, hey, instead of making a bridge out of the ropes that they found 3 rooms ago, they took the bodies of all the guys they killed, sewed them together into a sheet, and then threw that across the way. It's like, that's really morbid, but I guess you could do that. I mean, it's fine,
Right.
Can you do that in the new Zelda?
I think that's more in the next Human Centipede movie. That's
okay.
Not quite.
I think that's
there's a lot of problem solving. You can do a lot of different problem solving different ways, but
that's not one of them.
So,
all right, Chris, what do you got? What did games teach you?
So I've got a couple things. One of them is obscure Jeopardy answers. I remember there was a couple weeks ago I was hanging out with my parents. We were watching Jeopardy, and there was this one question, and I can't remember exactly what it was about, but I remember that it was something that I knew because I had played Rome Total War, and it might have been like the name of an ancient civilization or something like that. But things like that you just pick up that you don't even realize that you pick up, just historical facts if you play games like Rome Total War or Total War games,
or like the Apple of Eden, which is clearly a real thing.
Age of Empires 2. I learned about William Wallace through that.
Exactly, or
what did you
El Cid.
No, I was 10. How did I see Braveheart?
Okay, fine. Age of Empires. El Cid. I think El Cid was a campaign in Age of Empires.
Yep. Yeah, that was one too.
Yeah. Or
there was that's a really
Joan of Arc.
Point,
that
Chris.
was another one.
No, I think that's a really good point, Chris, because a well-rounded game pulls from, myriad sources of actual material. IGN just did a really good article this past week because of the Mass Effect Andromeda launch on the influence for the Mass Effect series, and there's a lot of stuff that I hadn't realized that they pulled from actual artists and actual writers and all sorts of things for that, and I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of obscure things that you don't realize, like when you're playing a video game, because you're just playing a video game when you're doing it. But you realize that, like, you know, like I have a general idea without even having done any research really about where the Gaul Empire was situated at a certain point in time, just because it could be, and it probably is slightly wrong, but I'm aware of in generality where the Gaul Empire was in like 300 BC because of Rome Total War.
Well, yeah, and I don't think that... I mean, games aren't necessarily meant to be an educational experience, but I think that they're a gateway to knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think for all the reasons we just mentioned.
For sure, yeah.
I mean, I played a lot of Math Blasters back in the day, so...
Yeah, fucking the original Math Blasters was fun as shit.
Yeah. So, I know that we discussed a little bit about my thoughts of VR, but I think that one of the things that VR is going to be really cool for is for educational purposes in museums. There's a company called VR Monkey that I met at
I've heard of them.
GDC. That they're from Brazil, and they have all these installations in museums all over Brazil. So they take you on this adventure of all of these dinosaurs that used to roam around where Brazil is in this VR experience. And so I think that VR is going to be a cool medium for bridging the gap in that educational realm.
Yeah, VR is definitely going to be a game changer in terms of social interaction within a digital space for sure, because you can actually have an avatar interact with another avatar.
Yeah.
In a sort of a first person mode, which is something that, you know, gaming has struggled with so far.
Yeah, I mean, he was talking about museums doing that in Brazil, and it reminded me that at the Louvre in Paris, they actually have, instead of having guidebooks, they let you rent, I think they're DSs, but they let you rent DSs, and they're customized DSs for the Louvre, and they're basically like 3D maps that you see on your 3D or your DS, I think.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
Yes. And it's just like such an interesting application for that console. Yeah, it's cool.
So the interesting thing that I learned from games is that environments oftentimes determine outcomes. And this is something that I struggled to kind of put in words before this. But I was thinking about games where they give you a limited set of tools inside of a wider universe, and then just sort of set you free. So you think about GTA 5, right? And whenever you log on to GTA 5, what's going on all the time online? Just people just murdering each other, just mass murder all the time, right? All the time. And what's interesting about that to me is that the systems that they provide you with, the driving system, the shooting systems, are the most developed, and therefore you end up driving a lot and you end up shooting a lot, and that means that you end up, you know, killing a lot of people, and that's interesting to me because it's sort of
killing people is interesting to you.
It's a window into how people are, right? Because if you think about GTA in a single player experience, it could just as well be like a taxi simulator where you just drive around and enjoy the day and everything is fine and nice, and okay, maybe occasionally someone shouts an obscenity at you and the end of your day to go to a strip club or something. But the idea is that people have choice that they're not thinking about. In the same way, I thought about was the opening to Modern Warfare 4, where you were in an airport.
Murder Warfare.
Murder Warfare.
No.
What is this the right game? Am I thinking about this?
That's
Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I think
it was a Call of Duty.
It was a Call of Duty game where it opens in an airport.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
you're holding a giant machine gun.
No Russian. That's what that mission is called.
You're a terrorist, and essentially you could just mow people down all you want. And I remember sitting at the opening of this game.
Modern Warfare 2. Just saying.
Thank you. Modern Warfare 2. Thank you. thinking, this is terrible. How could anyone ever want to do this? And I think I spent the whole mission just sitting there, not pressing a trigger and doing it, and just walking behind them or something. I don't remember, but I would imagine that most players just pulled down the trigger because the environment, again, determines the outcomes of what you do. And that turns over into real life too, where, I have students who live in an environment that encourages a certain set of actions, and therefore they do those things.
That's really interesting. I have a tough time like playing through Mass Effect. When I played through all 3 games, I made a decision at the beginning. I was going to be an ass and be Renegade the whole way through, and it's been really hard to stick to.
It is.
Like, it's not as simple as just, I'm going to pick this option. For me, at least, I feel bad.
Right? You feel like a dick.
It hurts your id. Like, that's like your id is saying, stop. It's like, stop doing this bad thing.
I'm doing that in The Witcher as well.
Are you being a dick in The Witcher?
No. I'm doing the opposite. I should say I'm doing the opposite.
Kind of inherently a dick.
Can that be the title of this podcast?
Geralt is very. He's not a dick, but he's very.
He's very straightforward.
He's to the point.
But I'm playing him as a nice guy.
A nice guy that's to the point?
Yes.
They're going to get fucked over sometimes.
But that's what I learned. The other big thing that occurred to me is that I think games is the first place where I really thought about death in a permanent, impactful manner with the death of Eris in Final Fantasy VII. I was probably... oh my god, I probably should have researched this. When did Final Fantasy come out? Final Fantasy
1997,
97, 98.
97, 98, so I was 12 years old. Yeah, that's about right. I was 12 years old, and when Eris died, I was like, so she's coming back, right? Like, we go do a rescue mission, and she comes back.
She has to. But no.
And she'll be back just as soon as your parents go pick her up from the farm up in Connecticut.
Yeah, exactly. and I just realized, like, she's gone for, like, that's it. That's all you get. You get so much time with a person, and when that time is up, that time's up, and that's that. And that's the first time that I really that really impacted me. So
the finality of death.
Yeah.
And it is what you learned from Final Fantasy.
That's really what you learned, yeah.
There you go.
Wow, I'm so glad we saved you for last on this, Ian, so that we end on a positive note.
A nice uplifting message for everybody out there. Yeah. There you go, everybody. Enjoy
Good thing everybody bought a 6-pack to participate with us today.
All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. I want to say thank you to everyone who's been listening, and thank you to all of our contributors. Thanks, guys. This is another great podcast this week. Appreciate you. If you would like to check us out online, you can check us out at facebook.com/TheGameBrew, on Twitter @TheGameBrew, on Instagram @TheGameBrew, or at our website, www.thegamebrew.com, where you can find social media links to all of the above. Catch us next week, and we'll be back for some more content. Thanks for stopping in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Good.
Hello. God damn it. I can't. How am I supposed to? Thank you, Dad. All right. Lauren, are you good? Are you going to close any more doors for a little while there?
Close all the doors.
Oh, I'm divorced.
Katie,
I'm single now, guys.
For a little bit?
All right, hello and welcome to the Game Brew podcast episodes. God fucking damn it! Like right in the middle.
It's fabulous.